Welcome to Indigenous Voice. In the first part of today's show, it's going to be a short film called Run for Justice. And we would like to say thanks a lot for Mavis Underwood from the Say Out First Nation for giving us permission to have it on our show. Thanks.
These poles behind me represent the laws of the Giksan. The poles show the oral histories that are owned by each of the house groups and the different clans of the Giksan. These ones that you can see are from my community, Kidziukla, and some of them are from Gitniao. But it's very important for people to appreciate that the Delgamuukw case and the Gistewe case were putting forward the Giksan laws. And what we were saying to the court was that they had to recognize the laws of the Giksan. The oral histories, the legal traditions explain all those laws clearly to people.
See the eagle fly in the blue sky so high, telling you you've got to be strong. See the red sun rise in the morning singing, follow me, you'll never go wrong, never go wrong. If you follow me, never go wrong. If your eyes can see the wheel of the land, with bear and bird and tree, and them you and me.
Wow. Yeah, how does it feel to run again? It feels good to run with you again. 25 years later, after that marvelous effort that we made and had all that support from Project North, and just that was just incredible. And Jim and Rena and their valuable help with the van, it was just remarkable. So.
Yep, that was fun.
Yeah. Do you feel like we made a difference?
Well, the Run for Justice is on its way. We have Wally and Kathy from the Gitskan Wet'suwet'en people starting off this morning. They're warming up with a walk, and a friendly village dog keeping them company.
It's worth the effort, especially when we're, since I was running marathons anyway, then they asked me to do it, and then more and more I figured out what it was about, the politics and raising money for their court case and raising awareness about it. That's mainly the main thing, I think. So it was good, a good effort.
I had been in Project North as a member for about 12 years in '87, and that was at a time when there were several different court cases coming down with regards to Native people, First Nations, and we heard about the Giksan Wet'suwet'en particularly because their court case, their court challenge to the provincial government had started in 1984, and it was going nowhere.
Well, Project North, I belong to the Anglican Church, and it became very aware that First Nations people were excluded for so many things. There was a need for the churches to work together to get into this issue. And my husband and my two daughters and I had been in the Northwest Territories for 10 years. And certainly I learned that it was an us and them situation, and there were government events and so on, and the Native people were not included in most of that.
Project North monthly meeting in August of '87, I suggested the idea of a run from the tribal territory up and around the Hazelton area down to Vancouver, the court case where the Gitxsan Wet'suwet'en were having to come all that way because the provincial government changed the venue from Smithers to Vancouver. So that's made a lot of hardship on Gitxsan Wet'suwet'en elders and chiefs, etc.
Jane Middleton, to whom I give a lot of credit, was chair at that time, and it was quite a heavy load. You know, there's a lot to do, a lot to learn, and so on. And she phoned one day and said, "Mavis, are you free this afternoon? Because Jack Thornburg has this crazy idea that he'd like to do a run from northern BC down to Victoria." And she said, "Of all the dumb things, but you know, we have to listen to him and so on, and I want to get a few people together." So I said, "No, I'd love to come." I thought it was a great idea. So we met that afternoon and talked about it. By the end of it, Jane was all for it. It was exciting and imaginative, and Jack had that quiet demeanor that was so attractive.
Project North always kept in pretty close contact with the various chiefs and elders in the various First Nations around, especially with when we heard about the Gitxsan Wet'suwet'en. There came to be quite a strong relationship between our Project North Victoria and especially Chief Don Ryan.
In terms of the Run for Justice, we spent considerable amount of time dealing with different groups, such as the church groups, when we were doing the court case. And we decided that we would spend a bit of time to try to help people understand what we were trying to do with the court case, and then to take a look at what type of activities that we could use to bring this to the public eye. And the Run for Justice was part of that, and working with Project North and the subsequent organizations after Project North. But for the purposes of the run, we spent considerable time with the Project North, which is made up of all kinds of different churches from around the country. And so the Run for Justice was tied in to the court case when the trial was moved from our territory in the north to come to Vancouver. And what we were concerned about was that we wouldn't get the justice that we were seeking if the trial was removed or moved from our territory.
I approached Steve, and as I recall it, he almost immediately thought it was a good idea, and before long he accepted the idea of being one of the principal runners along with myself, because I had done a lot of distance running as well. So that was that really got us off the ground. And the fourth member of the team, Jim Williams, was the van driver mostly and videographer. He did a fair bit of the video, but also a good bit of it was done by Rena Dulé, who was also a Tsaut member and a good friend of Steve and his sister Mavis Underwood. So we found out that Rena had a gift for sort of physiotherapy, massage therapy, and on the night, I think it was on the night of the fundraising dinner in early September of 1988, just less than a month before the run, Rena Dulé was kind enough to offer her services to come along with us in the RV to be the massage therapist, physiotherapist, and it turned out she also had a gift for driving and for videography as well. So,
okay, 25 years ago, my mom and I were reading maybe it was a notice in the newspaper, and it advertised a native man that was going to sing and play guitar, and I thought it would be really good entertainment. So we went, and it was at Mavis Gillies church in Victoria. So I didn't realize until we got there that it was a fundraiser for the Run for Justice, and I'd never heard about the Run for Justice, didn't know what it was. And when I looked at the head table, I saw Steve, my cousin, and I saw Jack Thornburg, who I'd met earlier, and so kind of read their brochure and got a little information about it. And then in their brochure, it said that they were still looking for a massage therapist.
A fellow named Alec Jardine, who was also part of the Project North, he and I did a road test about 2 weeks before the run, and basically he and I went up there, stayed at motels along the way and stuff, and then on the way down we interviewed we called and made contact with all the bands along the route and the community centers along the route, community, the people that were going to billet us, etc., so that we could suss out exactly where to stop, how long between towns, communities, bands, reserves, etc.
At the time, I really didn't know much about Project North, and then learned more as I got involved with the run. I knew that the Gitxsan people First Nations had a court case about lands claims, and that Project North was given a talking stick to be able to speak to people about the court case and about the struggles that they had, and that the run was going to be spreading information, being able to give out information to people at churches and on reserves and all the different places we stopped along the run. So Jack was mostly the speaker. Jim Williams was our main driver for the motorhome, and Steve was the other runner. So it was really nice to have a native and non-native runner. So the two guys ran the whole distance from Hazelton and down to Victoria. And so Steve and I were the quiet, shy ones. So we were there, but we didn't do very much speaking.
So it ended up being that Steve and I were the principal runners. But as Mavis alluded to, we had a lot of people come out from the bands and even from churches and so on that would join us for the final 2 kilometers into town or something of that sort, or into a band office. So it worked quite well that way. Yeah, I think each of us managed about 800 or 900 kilometers on our own. I mean, separately. Plus, so we were running part-time together and part-time for a total of 1,320 kilometers it wasn't quite from the Yukon border, as Mavis alluded to. It was Hazelton where it started. Steve and I picked up the run at Smithers. It was a ceremonial group of elders and a wonderful woman, Kathy, I forget her last name, Holland I think it was, who ran from, 4 or 5 in 2 teams, ran from Hazelton, starting off at dawn with the van and us in the van. And they led off carrying eagle feathers and ran to Morristown. Then 4 others came to relieve them and ran to Smithers, and that's where our first night of billeting after the billeting in Hazelton happened. We got a fabulous welcome at Hazelton from the Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en tribal elders and chiefs.
The Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en people were very happy to have us be able to support them in their court case, to be able to let people know what it was about. When we got there, they were very welcoming, very supportive, and they had some of their people run with us that first day. And we just felt really good about the whole run.
The team got up to Hazelton the night of the 28th of September, and were met with beautiful food and speeches and ceremony from the Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en people in Hazelton, and we billeted with them in Hazelton. And then the next morning we started off bright and early for the first leg of the run, but Steve and I didn't do that leg. That was done ceremonially by the Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en runners who started off, 4 of them, including an elder named Wally Daines. Started off, he was 68, and he started off towards Morristown, which is halfway between Hazelton and Smithers. And then another team came in at Morristown, including a lot of school kids. And so we had about 8 or 9 Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en representatives running that first leg. And they just, they were so passionate about the whole idea of the land claims and the need for support from any source, including Project North. So we felt honored and privileged to be running for them. And we found out somewhere along the way, I think, that Ron Sebastian, who's a Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en carver, was carving this beautiful 6-foot-tall talking stick, which is almost like a totem. It has carved figures like a totem does, and beautiful sort of mahogany colored wood. And he was carving that as a gift for Project North for their help with in support of the run for justice and the court challenge.
So one of the things that the Gitxsan did was to commission one of the artists from our community to carve a talking stick. And a talking stick is an important symbol. It's part of the poles that you see behind me. The talking stick is directly related to the authority that the house group has and the chiefs who are responsible for the house. So what we did was to do a talking stick, and we presented it to the people from Project North, and we asked them to represent us. The talking stick gave them the right to stand and to talk on our behalf in other parts of the country. And the work that was done with the people here in Victoria, including the community with Chowit, was a remarkable effort on our part to bring other First Nations into what we were trying to do. So the run goes from Hazelton to Victoria, and we wanted all of the people who were part of that run to be able to speak on our behalf as they went through the province with the run.
The run was hard. It was a struggle. And just by the way they ran, I felt like a little mommy hen trying to get them out the door of the motor home. Do we have the right shoes on? Do we have our reflective vest on? And the one time Jack went and stepped out of the motor home, he kind of twisted his ankle. And so, they both, Steve and Jack, they didn't want to quit, and so I'm a crier in our tradition, so here I go. When they couldn't run, they walked, and when they couldn't walk, they limped. And Jim and I saw that, so we know what a struggle it was. It wasn't easy, and it was hard. Jim and I had the easy job driving, and trying to take pictures. But I guess I want people to know that they really did something amazing for justice. I mean, the title is really aptly named, Run for Justice. And that's what they were doing. And so, to me, I guess, and a few people too, they see the run as a struggle, a struggle for justice. And when we went to the Parliament steps, the run ended. So it started at Hazelton and ended on the Parliament steps in Victoria. So the run for justice didn't end at the Parliament steps, every day after. There's still a struggle for Native people.
Well, the run was certainly the hardest thing I've ever done. I think Steve feels the same way. it was essentially a marathon a day by each of us. And of course, sometimes we would be running, sometimes brisk walking, whatever it took to be able to cover anywhere from 40 to 75 kilometers in a single day. We would run 3 days and have the fourth day as a rest day. So in the 32 days, we had about 26 days on the road, and every fourth day was a rest day. The fourth day was often a good day for appearances at on radio stations or with local communities. We had a lot of young runners join us at different parts of the run for anything from a kilometer up to multiple kilometers, 20 kilometers even. Along with elders, of course, as well, who would come in for a while. But the young people, the attitude that I remember best, and Steve would be able to verify this, I think, that very aware of what we were doing in the sense of raising awareness all along for First Nations issues. We got word that people were taking notice, especially chiefs and elders from different bands along the way, ones that we didn't have a chance to go through. So the word was coming back to us slowly but surely that people were aware of it and aware of the run and the purposes of the run, especially the consciousness raising and awareness raising purpose of the run. Some people had not heard of the Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en court case, but at least they knew that there was something of very great importance that we were supporting and endorsing by this run.
The Indigenous people in the province of British Columbia have been involved in a very, very long struggle to seek a just resolution of the land question in BC. The struggle goes back to the point of contact, and British Columbia, for instance, has had a very pronounced and ongoing sense of an adversarial approach to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples vis-a-vis our Indigenous land rights, which are commonly referred to as Aboriginal title, and of course the notions of Crown title.
The position of the provincial government in the late 1980s was basically what it had been for over a century, and that is that there was no such thing as Aboriginal title, so there was nothing to negotiate with First Nations. And that really left First Nations with two alternatives: some form of direct action on the issue or going to court. And actually the Saanich people were involved in that period around 1988 in two very significant initiatives. One was the Sandstone Bay Marina case, which was the first time a Douglas Treaty had been used to stop resource development. And the other, of course, was the Run for Justice, where Saanich people and their non-Aboriginal neighbors basically came to support the cause of the Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en, who had finally gone to court. And they had gone to court because although a federal treaty process had begun in the 1970s, the Gitxsan were so far down on the list to negotiate that it would be 100 years before they'd get to the table. And getting to the table was academic anyway because the province wouldn't participate. And the Run for Justice really brought public attention to the issue of Aboriginal title in the province, to the position of the provincial government that was really blockading, if you like, progress on that issue, and to the determination of many First Nations people to have this issue dealt with properly, as many of their leaders had been demanding for over a century.
The run was in support of the Gitxsan-Wet'suwet'en and the Delgamuukw case. And Delgamuukw is the very first Aboriginal law case that I learned in my first year of law school. And all the other cases that flow out of it, all of the other negotiations and all the impact that case and the run had, it still very much has an impact today.
While we're doing the court case, we spent considerable amount of effort on doing direct action on the territory. The work that was done was to connect people back to the land and to get people active in protecting what was left on the territory. So the direct action was another process that we used that ran parallel to the work that we were doing inside the legal environment.
I don't know that much had happened before in Native, non-Native relationships where someone was doing something brave and different, like the run. But certainly it brought a lot of attention to the issue of Native rights and what people were willing to do to get people to listen in and participate, whether they agreed or not.
People's taking direct action to defend their interests and rights. And certainly the Run for Justice is a prime example of the commitment that our people have to ensuring that there's a respect and a recognition for rights that at this moment in our history are reflected in the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which was embraced by the vast majority of countries in the world. Our rights are enshrined in the Constitution in this country and have been the subject of innumerable Supreme Court victories. There's little question that there's been a cumulative effect of all of the good work, the dedication and devotion of many of our elders, our spiritual leaders, our political leaders, leaders such as George Manuel, Philip Paul, back in the day, so to speak, that were very instrumental in keeping our spirit alive and being loud and proud as Indigenous peoples.
I do have a belief that the Run for Justice did start something important. In a sense, as I mentioned, we were one small cog in this whole historical process, but I think we maybe encouraged people to, Native and non-Native, to take these issues seriously and to recognize the continuing inequality in the treatment by the federal government of First Nations reserves. And I like to think that we were a bit of a predecessor to the Idle No More movement, that we might have had some impact on the statements made at Oka to try to make municipal, provincial, and federal governments realize that there are people in their midst who are being treated in an unequal way. And of course, we've seen that with the water situation in various bands recently, which just give proof to the fact that the separate and unequal treatment still happens.
So even though the run is over, and even though it's been 25 years, the reasons and purpose for the run are still going on. There still is a struggle, and our people still are on the line trying to get the information out. And so it may not be Jack and Steve running, but it's other people running and other people trying to make that connection between Native and non-Native. And when there's more understanding, then there will be less fear and less animosity towards us. Even after all these years, there's still that separation, and there should not be.
Groups of dedicated individuals such as the Run for Justice and Project North, individuals that had that sense of social consciousness that knows at the end of the day, as human beings, we have to do the right thing, no matter how challenging and how difficult. It's a duty we owe to to our children and our grandchildren's grandchildren, and that's what we were put here for.
So Jack and Steve and Rena did a remarkable job. The commitment that they had to go from our community and to take the run to Victoria was an amazing feat, and I'm really happy to see that we're doing something to commemorate that effort that they did 25 years ago.
Thank you for being part of an important movement. We're here in a peaceful way. We're here to bring awareness to the issues that have been quiet for too long. Our children deserve the best of a future that we can leave them. And that's all we're trying to do. Our ancestors are crying with us. They're praying with us. And they're guiding us in our every step. We ask only for equality. We ask only for reciprocity. We ask only for respect. Dear people, we are the first people of this land, and we deserve a say in our future. Today is the beginning. Today is only the beginning. We can't give up. People, we have to carry on. We have to keep singing. We have to keep praying. And if we have to keep marching, we will.
Welcome to Indigenous Voice. My name is Joy Hamilton, your host. Today we are going to talk to Kevin Albers. He is the CEO of Macola Housing Societies. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks very much, Joy.
Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been pretty much raised in Victoria pretty much my entire life. Went to school out in the West Shore and started an education in accounting, actually. I'm a professionally designated chartered professional accountant. And throughout my career, I've been working in certainly interesting industries and areas and landed in affordable housing. Certainly not an area that I thought I would ever land in, but it's turned out to be a very exciting and interesting career that's kept me engaged and very motivated. So I've been thoroughly enjoying it my entire time in working in that industry.
So what motivated you to want to get involved with Macola?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I was working towards my professional accounting designation. I was just had recently gotten married and started our family, and I was working in a pretty hectic position. And I thought I wanted to maybe slow down a little bit and get a little bit of an easier position. And I thought, what about if I work for a nonprofit society? And so that's kind of how I landed at my current employer, which is Macola Housing Society and Macola Group. And I thought it was a way that I could sort of do a job that was manageable, 9 to 5 kind of thing, and focus on completing my professional accounting designation and carry on with that. But it turned into much more than that very quickly. But that's really how I got there.
So now you've been with Macola for how many years?
Yeah, so coming up this year, it'll be 20 years I've been with Macola. Yeah,
That's
2 whole decades. I didn't know I would do anything for 20 years, but it's been quite some time.
And through that, there's been a great progression of housing and community, meaning that the First Nations require a lot of affordable housing.
Yeah, I mean, housing certainly is a critical issue across the province, across the country, and certainly with a focus on First Nations, Aboriginal, Indigenous families living both on and off reserve. Macola Housing Society, which was established back in 1984, was really created to address the affordable housing crisis for Aboriginal families living in Victoria. Through issues of racism, through issues of just pure supply, Aboriginal families were unable to find secure, safe, affordable housing for them and their families. So that's really how Macola had started, and as we all know, affordable housing just continues to be more of an urgent and a crisis issue for families and individuals throughout the country, and with unfortunately an overrepresentation for Aboriginal singles and families.
So where was the first housing in Victoria?
So Macola started, like I said, back in 1984. The first project that they ever opened is actually on Caledonia, not too far from where we're sitting today. Was started in, like I said, 1984, and still is there today, and still houses a number of Aboriginal families very successfully, and that really was the birth of Macola, and from there has expanded throughout Vancouver Island. So our focus was originally on Victoria, and we started to branch out to Duncan, Nanaimo, and Port Alberni, and then expanded further into areas like Campbell River and Courtenay. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, we expanded onto the mainland, and now we pretty much cover the entire province of British Columbia.
No, I know that there's a lot of talk about land issues in Victoria and part of, all through BC actually. But are the housing units, are they on First Nations land or not?
So the housing that Macola currently owns and manages, we manage about 1,600 housing units in the province of BC. We house about 5,000 Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people in BC. And within those homes, the majority of them are off reserve, so they're in typical kinds of communities throughout the province. We do have one very successful elders project of assisted living that's located on Cowichan and Tribes traditional territory within the city of Duncan. So that's the only one that's technically located on an on-reserve community. We are working on a number of developments, working in partnership with First Nations to help them with their on-reserve housing needs as well.
Okay, so where are these projects going to be?
Yeah, so Macola's certainly been expanding over the years, and a big piece of what Macola Group has become is not only a property manager of affordable housing, but also a developer of affordable housing, both for Macola and for a number of other affordable housing providers throughout the province. And with recent announcements from the current government for investments in affordable housing, through a number of provincial programs, we're looking at building housing in a number of communities, including Victoria, Langford, Courtenay, Nanaimo, Quesnel, Prince George, Terrace, Fort St. John, Vernon, Vancouver, Burnaby, pretty much every major urban area within the province of BC.
So, how long do these projects, how long do you think it's going to take for all these projects to develop?
Yeah, and that's obviously an issue of urgency, right? I mean, there's a need today that there are families that are desperately in need of affordable housing, so getting those projects out of the ground very quickly is very important to everybody, including us. I'd say that projects today are moving reasonably quicker than they did 5 or 7 years ago, and I think it's just because of the real concerted effort by governments to really move these projects along. There's a true understanding from municipalities, from municipal governments, about what they need to do to allow affordable housing to be built more quickly, to move their approval processes more quickly, to get these units out into the public so that people can access this housing units sooner than they would have typically in the past.
Yes, because I know that there's a real need, a very strong need, because there's more and more people living in BC and living in Victoria especially, and it's very hard period for housing.
It really is a supply issue, right? And because the supply isn't sufficient, the demand is so high, and that's what's driving up the cost of housing. That's what's increasing the wait lists throughout the province and increasing the urgency about having to do something. And really that's what we're trying to respond to. And we're certainly doing as much as we can. We can't do it without our partners. And when I say partners, I'm talking about First Nations communities. I'm talking about housing providers, other housing providers, BC Housing, the federal governments. Everybody really does need to step up and assist, because it can't be done without those partners. There are really no successful affordable housing projects that don't include multiple partners in the current state of the economy and affordability in general.
Well, Kevin, I think you've done, and it sounds like you've got quite a.
We're having a lot of fun
load.
too. We're doing good work. We're excited about what we do, and I think we've put together an incredible team of people. Macola currently employs about 100 staff throughout the province. Providing all kinds of critical things that make affordable housing both be developed and also be managed over the long term. Working with our tenants, working with families, working with applicants to become housed, and working with societies and communities to help them realize their dreams of increasing the affordable housing supply throughout those communities in BC. And that's exciting stuff because you actually get to see the impact of your work and how important it is. And we're really changing lives. Every single housing unit that we open, every family that we move into that housing unit, and every family that transitions maybe from affordable housing to market housing in their future, we're creating a different outcome for that family. So it's truly exciting work. It's truly exhausting. These things truly do take time, like you mentioned, but I think in the end it's absolutely critical and important that we do the work, but it's good. It's a good time to be in affordable housing because there's truly I think a recognition by all levels of government about how important it is for them to be part of the solution.
Well, I think that for the families within these communities, there's also a lot of projects that go on in the community as well within them, aren't there?
A lot of projects, you say? Sorry?
Yeah, like projects as far as the communities working together within the small community itself?
Yeah, a lot of what we do within Macola is also try to reach out and be a partner in the community, not just about our housing. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of work with our cultural liaison position. We do a lot of work around just trying to reach out and be a member of the community as well, not just a property manager or just a developer of affordable housing. We're big supporters of community events. The Aboriginal Back to School Picnic is a great example of the work that we do now that's reaching out from beyond Vancouver Island to include other locations in the province of giving back to the community, investing in the community, providing students a real leg up on day one with school supplies and equipment, and providing a great opportunity for Aboriginal families and non-Aboriginal families to gather and celebrate the beginning of school. So we do make real strategic investments in bursaries and supporting Aboriginal students towards higher education. So we give back as well. We're also, through our development arm, we actually reinvest the proceeds of that work into affordable housing. So we're not only looking to government to partner, but we actually make strategic financial investments in those projects to create additional housing in communities that we work in.
Well, I think that's a real benefit to the families. It makes them stronger, and I'm sure it really helps the students.
It does. It helps the families. It helps them stay connected or reconnect with their community. It helps our staff to understand the impact of the housing, the impact on the community that we have. These things are all interconnected, and being able to allow for cultural types of celebrations and cultural and traditional types of events and activities is important to our tenants, and it's important to our staff, and it enriches the entire experience for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Now you have a new project coming up. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we have a number of new projects. We just finished a very exciting project in the city of Langford, something we've been working on for years, where we redeveloped an existing family townhouse site. And we were able to, what we call densify a site that only included 5 townhouses, and turn it into 36 affordable family rental homes. And then also it provides office space for our head office in Victoria, which houses all of our staff there. So we finally have a purpose-built space within a building where we have affordable housing above us. So it's a perfect synergy of needs and provides a great resource to the community.
That's great. Well, that's so exciting.
It sure is. And there's more to come. There's a few projects on the island that are certainly going forward. We're looking for another project in the city of Langford to proceed, another one in Courtenay to proceed. So there's lots on the go, and they're all exciting there in different ways too.
Yeah, because that also includes elders as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, we do. A number of years ago, we started into assisted living back probably about 10 years ago now. I think it was 2005 where we opened up our first assisted living environment for Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal elders and persons with disabilities. So we provide a full complement of hospitality services, everything from meals and recreation coordination to assisted bathing and all the things that make up an assisted living environment. So we do that in Langford, actually, again, to 60 different elders. And we opened up another building of the same sort in Duncan, the project I was mentioning earlier on the traditional territory of Cowichan and tribes. And so that houses 50 Aboriginal elders as well.
Well, that's great. Are you going to be having any more projects or housing units for elders?
So we don't have anything on the books right now. Right now we've been really focused on family housing. That's really what McCullough started out as. We talked about it earlier. The project on Caledonia started as a family housing provider because at the time that the board created McCullough, that's where they really saw the need. So that's really our foundation and something we always come back to. We don't do a lot of singles types of housing. We've really maintained a focus on family affordable housing. We're excited to be providing assisted living to elders for sure. We just don't have any plans to do that yet. It requires to be in larger spaces, larger communities, and so our focus lately has certainly been on family rental.
Okay. Do you think that in the future there will be any need for that? Because there are, as most families, a lot of people do get older, and they do
the
have
aging demographic for sure.
So and with the Aboriginal community, it is a community. So therefore, a lot of their families stick together, and they stay together as one unit, kind of thing. And the elders do live with the families, and taken care of. So I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, you're very right about that. I think it will come up again. It seems to go in cycles where there's a focus on a particular type of housing, and you go after that, and you get that out into circulation, and you house that tenant population in those homes, and then the programs change. A lot of this has to do with our partners, our financial partners. What is the provincial government doing? Where is their area of focus? Where is the federal government? Are they going to re-engage in affordable housing in a meaningful way and put a focus on a particular type of housing? It's hard to say just yet, but I would imagine in the future there'll be more support around seniors and elders housing. And we've always been trying to look at providing a space within elders housing to allow extended family to live in and with the Aboriginal elders. And sometimes that's been quite successful, and sometimes the take-up hasn't been all that great.
Right.
A lot of Aboriginal elders want to stay with their families as opposed to move part of their family into a different environment. So it's
But
been
sometimes, people have a certain kind of need, if they're unable to look after that person, or if something happens and they have, it could be various problems, like dementia or illness or any kind of thing. So therefore there would be need for a project to
Very
for that
true.
for that kind of thing.
And maybe the next big push in McCullough might be around residential care, complex care, that stage that occurs after assisted living, that helps to address issues of dementia, or not really address them, but allow for a space for that to occur. That could be in our future. Yeah, I wouldn't say anything's outside of our future, but
yeah, because it sounds like McCullough it's exciting, and it sounds like they're really trying to house everybody and try to help all of the Aboriginal community. So that was the reason of my questioning.
Yeah, and I think we've done a good job of trying to create inclusive types of housing projects as well. I think trying to embrace culture across the continuum as opposed to one particular culture over another. Obviously we don't, even our project in Cowichan, it's not all couch and elders, right? It's
Right.
it's a space that an Aboriginal elder can come from any community and still be
Right.
safely and appropriately housed and cared for in that environment. So I think that that's certainly a new way of doing that kind of housing, and I think that's a good thing of being inclusive.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, Kevin, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on the program.
Very welcome.
And I look forward, and I'm so excited about these upcoming projects. And I know that, I know the society itself is doing everything they can to accommodate the communities. And I know it's a very big project, it must be an awful lot of hard work.
Yeah, there's we have a really strong team of people that are absolutely believe in what it is that they're doing. They believe that there's real purpose in the work that they do. I have staff that they can move mountains and they do on a daily basis to allow this stuff to go forward and make sure that we're in a good place to be able to provide safe, affordable housing to Aboriginal families and Aboriginal elders and whatever the next 10, 15, 20 years looks like.
And congratulations to you on so many years.
Thank you. I'm starting to feel a little aged by that when I start to measure my time at an employer by 10-year increments. But it literally is the fastest 20 years of my life. It's been, like I said, it's been an exciting, very rewarding ride and challenging. And I think that's what we all want in a career. So.
And I'm sure you're going to continue to do this, aren't you?
My plans are to continue to do this. That's very true.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Kevin.
Very welcome, Joy. Thank you for the time.
And thank you for watching Indigenous Voice. I'm Joy Hamilton.